This is Brenda Gorlick speaking at you, and today I am coming to you from Treaty 1 territory, the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, the Cree, the Oji-Cree, the Dakota and Dene peoples, and the homeland of the Métis Nation. And it's my pleasure to be sharing some stories with you. So enjoy. Just to give you a quick background as to who I am, I started dancing when I was 5 years old. I started working professionally when I was 16 through the channels of television back in the day when most of the variety shooting took place out of Winnipeg, Manitoba. I was lucky enough to be choreographed as one of Jacques Lemai's featured dancers on a couple CBC series, variety series. One was called The Jerry and Ziz Show, the other one was called Canadian Express. So as a young dancer, performer, I was exposed to a myriad of entertainers from coast to coast. So I really got an early education in the music scene, in the dance scene, and then I graduated from the Royal Winnipeg Ballet's professional program. Since then, I've been working nonstop as an artist. I'm one of those rare breed humans in Canada that can honestly say I've never worked a temp job. I've never worked as a waitress. I've never worked as a telemarketer. I've only ever worked as an artist. That's not to say I haven't changed my hats on a regular basis, week to week sometimes, day to day even. And I'm still working in the industry as a choreographer, an associate artistic director of Winnipeg Studio Theatre. Some of the t-shirts you see behind me are from our shows. I'm also on stage, I'm also on film, and I've been doing a fair amount of hallmarking lately, which has been wonderful. But today I just wanted to highlight a couple gems from my personal past. I started working at one of the oldest and most highly respected outdoor theaters called Rainbow Stage in my late teens and early 20s. And I think Funny Girl, in fact, the show above me, Funny Girl, was the first show I was ever in at Rainbow Stage. And as a matter of fact, I had a long chat yesterday with another alumnus of Rainbow, Joan Karasevich, who's currently based in Dallas, Texas. And she was the lead in Kiss Me Kate, another production that I had worked on in my early years. So my recollection of those days is quite special. I happened to live in East Kildonan, and Rainbow Stage is in West Kildonan. And back in the day, I would take a rubber dinghy and I would dinghy across the Red River to work, to show up for my half-hour call. Probably not the wisest choice, but, you know, it was a choice. What can I say? Was hired initially as an ensemble member, singer-dancer, went on to work almost exclusively in musical theater land, which I'm still so very proud to be connected with. A couple of the stories that stand out in my mind. One of the earliest featured roles I had was as Lola in Damn Yankees, and opposite the wonderfully talented and skilled Robbie Patterson as young Joe. And we would always enjoy ourselves on stage and off. But I do recall having, you know, one of those like brain fart moments where lyrics escape you, and instead of stopping, you just start singing in whatever language comes to mind, whatever gibberish comes out of your mouth. So whatever Lola wants, Lola gets, and little man, he's Davakuta. I'm sure that the audience had no idea what I was saying, because I didn't either, until the lyrics would come back and somehow embody your body again. Another famous moment that I recall, which is a story I've shared with so many of my students and so many of my colleagues, and some people were actually on the stage when this happened, in a production at Rainbow again of The Sound of Music. I got to play the jilted one, Elsa von Schrader. And for some strange reason, the lyric, it was actually a line in one of our scenes. I was on stage with Edward Letson and with Stan Lesk, I believe, Uncle Max and Captain Von Trapp. And I was warning, I said, you know, we have to do something about the fact that the line that's supposed to be said is, the Germans are about to invade Austria. What came out of my mouth was, the children are about to invade Australia. And this was a live performance in front of 2,500 people because our theater is huge. And I literally corrected that line on stage and went, I mean, the Germans are invading Austria. And I corpsed, and I was facing up stage, and I tried to contain myself, and I did. And I managed to get off into the wings and left those poor gentlemen to have to fend for themselves, trying to pick up the pieces of what Elsa was trying to say as one of the pivotal moments of the political scene in Sound of Music. So there you have it. Nothing like depending on your co-star to make sure that you look good. Yeah, that's me. I got that straight. Okay, so I do recall vaguely that I did join Canadian Actors Equity in 1980, I believe. I had just moved from Winnipeg to Toronto, and the first professional gig I got was with the Inner Stage under the leadership of Elizabeth Zathmary at that time. The interesting part about that company was I didn't know anything about acting. I had just come out of the pure ballet dance world with the RWB, and I was pretty cocky, actually. So I just assumed that all you have to do to become an actor is memorize lines, get on stage, and open your mouth and speak those lines. A little bit harder than I would have thought. One of the earliest productions I was in on tour, I think we rehearsed all of a week before we hit the road with the Velveteen Rabbit. And much to my chagrin, I'm on stage and I went blank. And so what does any good professional do? They walk off the stage and leave your actors hanging high and dry. Bruce Mather was one of my acting buddies. Oh, the poor dear. Had to fend again for himself until I composed myself, looked at my lines, got back on stage and joined him in the midst of a live performance, speaking the lines that I was supposed to speak. So there you had it. I definitely learned very quickly that acting was more than just memorizing lines. You actually have to know your craft. So it was after that point in time that I actually went back to the University of Winnipeg, actually, and got trained as an actor, and have never really stopped training as an actor. It's a lifelong journey, as one knows in this business, and you are always learning new things every day. Another story I'd like to share with you has to do with my wonderful exposure to Alan Lund, the magic of Alan Lund. He directed me along with a wonderful company of young emerging artists in a production of West Side Story at the Banff Centre of Fine Arts. Oh my goodness, I sure wish that program was still running. It was absolutely phenomenal. So I know that there were across Canada auditions for that theater summer camp, if you want to call it that, training camp. And I was intent on landing the role of Maria in West Side Story. I trained classically as a vocalist. I fell in love with that character. And when I showed up at my audition for Alan Lund, he said, well, I see you're a dancer. Have you thought about auditioning for Anita? And I went, Anita? Oh, I don't know. So sure enough, I danced for that role, sang for the role, and landed that role of Anita. And there was absolutely no turning back. It's probably still to this day one of my favorite productions I've ever been involved with. Certainly the role of Anita encompasses a true triple threat package. Now, just as an addendum to that story highlighting my opportunity to play Anita in West Side Story, there's no way I'd be cast as that today. And there's no way that I should be cast as that today. But I still am very proud of the work that I did under the directorship and choreographership of Alan Lund, and I wouldn't trade that for a second. Last thing I'd like to share is my ultimate gratitude to those that have gone before me in this business and continue to go before me in this business. I've been so inspired by so many instructors and coaches and directors and choreographers and, you know, to name a few, through my ballet and my dance training with the Royal Winnipeg Ballet. Eva Vangenci, one of my earliest jazz instructors, aspired to be like that woman. I still aspire to be like that woman. I still teach dance class in my 60s. And when I was studying under Eva, she was this phenomenal woman who you couldn't keep up with. She was in her 60s. So I want to be that gal. There are so many international female actors and performers that I aspire to be like. Chita Rivera, Rita Moreno, Jane Fonda. I saw the 80 for Brady movie and I laughed. So I want to be one of those 80 for Brady's or 90 for Blindies. I don't know who that's going to be. Needless to say, in Canada and in Winnipeg, specifically, Doreen Brownstone was one of our goddesses. She just left us this past year. And as somebody who hit that magic 100th birthday, and we were all there to celebrate her, I can only hope that my career is as long-lasting and active and vibrant as Doreen was and still is in terms of our memories of Doreen. We are very lucky to be here in the Canadian cultural community. All I can say is I'm still in the middle of training people to be better than myself. Yes, I've been auditioning for roles lately that all my students have snagged and not me, but I'm good with that, kind of. Most importantly, I'm just so grateful that we have the opportunity to practice our craft here in Canada, period. I mean, we are part of a global community, but we as Canadians have an opportunity to have the freedom to express ourselves on a regular basis. So we really are blessed. And I do want to send shout outs to so many people across the country that I've had the chance to work with. I literally have worked coast to coast through, the Vancouver art scene, through the Banff scene, through, of course, Manitoba. In Ontario, I worked with the Stratford Festival for a couple seasons. I worked as far east as Gander, part of the Canadian Armed Forces show tours. So I've done my part. I've even been as far north as Alert NWT. And every experience has just fed me so much. There's so much richness in our country, and I've been able to explore that through the craft of the performing arts. So let's hope that we can continue on. And thank you for making this opportunity happen for many of us across the country.